When you try something new, are you ready? Are you prepared? Are you being realistic? And do you think you can be resilient? That's what I'm going to talk about today on this Friday Night Live with me, Lady Lexi. Last week we talked about new things, and the topic itself seems so simple. And every time I run into people who, for some reason, cannot seem to make it happen. Oh, it doesn't sound too nice when I say I run into people. Let's put it this way. Um, Part of my clients run into I can't do it. And it's not that I literally say I cannot do it. It's just that I notice that for some reason it doesn't quite go the way that I would think it would go. So there are some slogans that I use. One step at a time. That's a very, very important one. So when it comes to being realistic, then yeah, of course, the one step at a time is part of it. And when it comes to, so yeah, let me show you this one. This one was the one I was looking for. So we have the be real, we have to be ready, and we have to be resilient. So one step at a time for me. That's, it's um, when people are working with me, they know I always say one step at a time. And I added something to it. Start with 10 minutes a day. And I've seen that since people start doing that, it actually worked quite well, starting with 10 minutes a day. So it's about, for instance, when they want to write a book, then it's like, okay, take 4 time slots. If the first one doesn't work, you can go to the second one. If the second one doesn't work, you can go to the third one. And if the third one doesn't work, then there's the final ultimate one, and you do it. Because all of these things, and that's what I've been talking about a lot lately, has to do with the brain. If you tell yourself, I'm going to do something, and next you don't, what do you tell your brain? Well, you tell your brain, you cannot rely on me. I'm not believable. So that's what we don't want. We want the brain to actually support us. But if we stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, that's not really working. Well, the starting part again actually is quite good because then the brain knows, hey, I'm going to do it again. But if you stop and not really start, so I was like, okay, so what's the thing? And so I came up with these 3 things: the be real, be ready, and be resilient. Now, what I noticed was, and I did the same thing. Let's be real here. Let's be honest. Um, when I said to someone, no, she said to me, I want to become a coach too. Cool. And then she said, well, I can never be a coach. Oh, because there's too much work involved. Really? And so we started talking about it, and pretty quickly, what became evident was that when she looks at people, and that includes me, who are being coaches, she looks at what do we do in order to get new clients, to get things done, prepared, etc. And well, one of the things I've been doing since December 1st is I have been posting every day on Instagram. Most of the time, twice a day, sometimes once a day. I do believe that there are also times that it's like 3 times a day. So, on average, lately, it's been twice a day. I'm using a checkerboard. One is a quote card, or it's part of a video that looks at the beginning like a quote card, and the other one is either, well, it's a headshot, whether it's pictures or it's video. And well, there has been a lot to do about it because when I started doing it, I must have started somewhere in 2022. I'm not sure. maybe earlier, but I do know that I stopped in September 2022. First time I went to Chicago, I stopped with a lot of things when I went to Chicago that first time, including going live every week. And it took me a long time to get going at it again. So when my client said, I want to become a coach too, it was like, well, you have to be there every day on Instagram. Now, my first question was, but don't you already do so? I mean, doesn't have to take much time now, does it? Well, it takes at least 1 to 2 hours per day. 1 to 2 hours per day. You mean to go on Instagram and post something? So then we looked at what she already did. And then we came back to, well, actually, it can be done within 5 minutes. Whole different ball game. So Be Real has to do like, hey, what can you do? And to give my own example in this case, I sat on very, well, it was sort of like bold thing to say out there. And it had to do with literally developing new skills. I wanted to know more about when it comes to the brain. So I want to read books. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read 1 book a week. Yeah, that's because I heard other people do it. And it seemed to make sense. Like, well, the moment that I said it, I was like, 1 book a week, I can never do that. But, that's what I heard, 1 book a week. So that got stuck in my head. So this week I said to my coach, that's not going to happen. What I can do is I can do 10 minutes a day. That I can do. And, when I'm, for instance, at the hairdressers or I'm on a terrace or wherever I am, I can read 10 minutes. That's something I can do. And she already said, well, I was waiting for you to be a little bit more realistic when it came to these things, but you have to experience it first. And that's so true. The experience tells you what can you do, what can you not do. Now, be ready is not just about be ready to start doing it. Be ready also has to do with all the things that you can encounter. And I can tell you, a lot of stuff was and is new to me. So I have been talking about artificial intelligence a few times now. And one of the things is I keep being surprised. And it has to do with little clips, with shorts. And it also has to do with captions. So captions are when you see the text underneath the video or on top of the video, wherever you want to put it. The captions are one of those things that, there are programs out there. They help you pay for it. Sometimes not the cheapest ones. It's like an upgrade on certain platforms you use. And I knew the importance of captions. I've known so for a long time. Basically, when I started working with YouTube, I saw people who had the captions on there. I actually saw, hey, I can check my own subtitles. And I remember in the beginning that I had this immense fight because for some reason, YouTube had decided that my subtitles had to be in Dutch. And I was like, no, they are in English. Well, try to get English words in Dutch, then you get really, really, really funny things. So I did what I needed to do to adjust it, and nowadays it's not a problem anymore. So the first time AI hears me, it's like, oh, it's English. Good. That's what we've been working on. So then I saw on Instagram, of course, there are subtitles. And then someone else said, you need those captions. And I was like, yeah, I know. And then to my surprise, I saw something new. I saw it recently, and it was when using StreamYard. So that's the program I'm using right now. And it had this option to generate shorts. And I was like, what? What is talking about? So you can actually, at the end of it, click an option, and that option looks at everything that you've been sharing, and then it takes out a few clips, and those few clips are under a minute, and it already generates its own captions. That's quite cool. And what especially is quite cool, I don't have to do anything. Next, it comes up with titles, and I'm like, oh. So since I've seen that, I've been more involved with the whole artificial intelligence thing. I've been more involved with figuring out what can I do. So for instance, I can already post certain things on YouTube, not necessarily have it listed as public, but I can still copy and paste all the text and then just go through it like, oh, this is what I've said, this is what I've said, or I can do it on Zoom too. It's a little bit being inventive. So if it's on one platform or it's not on one platform, like for instance on Zoom, then you feed it to the other one. Like for instance, YouTube, I probably could feed it to StreamYard too as a recorded video, and then just use what you get out of it. Well, I had a different app too, completely forgotten about it. It was called, yes, Captions. Max 5 minutes. And then I started using it. And when I did, and I was ready to post a video, so I actually cut it up into 5-minute parts, then put it all together in my favorite video editing program. So for long videos, I usually use LumaFusion. And I'm still not that comfortable with LumaFusion, especially when it comes to resizing videos. And I've discovered InShot years ago, and well, that's my go-to thing, except for when it's long videos. And so when I put it in InShot, I looked at it and I realized there's something called captions in there. So of course they keep evolving all these programs, all these applications at the moment. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't there before. And there it was, captions. And oh my God, it was so much easier. So I actually posted something on Instagram, and on Instagram you can see in one corner, like that's the one I did sort of manually with captions. And then there's the part underneath, which actually is using InShot itself. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And when I talk about being ready, it's be ready to embrace whatever comes your way. Don't be like, no, I'd rather not. I don't like change. So I could be one of those people. But on the other hand, I have seen so many amazing developments lately that I'm like, oh, like today, for instance, and I'm quite surprised about it. So apparently I was able to post something to LinkedIn, one of those shorts, and could have been with a thank you to StreamYard. I remember that LinkedIn was a bit of a problem because you have to have like at least 1,000 viewers, or you have to have certain things you post on there. And today I was looking at it. Oh, you know what? I can actually post on LinkedIn. So for a second I was like, but do I want to post straight away to LinkedIn? It's different audience, different ball game, but I also know that there are people out there who probably want to see this. Keep it people who know me from the past, although I don't think they are necessarily the ones who want to see it. But yes, there are people out there, I'm pretty sure. So I was like, okay, 3 platforms. You know what? Which is the one I'm going to let go? Instagram. So Instagram is like a little bit of a headache when it comes to these things because you have to put in a code and then you have to enter going live. So there's always this black screen. And I knew this time, no black screen. But more importantly, I remember I was talking about those shorts. I realized that every platform has its own use. So I know that LinkedIn does have some people I really want to reach. As for Instagram, I have been posting those 50-minute plus videos on there. Well, when you go to YouTube, and before you're like, why is he talking about YouTube now? Well, when we talk about YouTube, we want long form content. So I get training from this guy called Evan Carmichael every other week. And he's an expert in the whole thing. And he basically said, if you do stuff on YouTube, you want to have at least 10 minutes out there. And apparently, there are people who like to watch for hours on end. Well, I'm not one of those people, I'll honestly say. Maybe with the exception of America, Britain's Got Talent, and then following one specific person. There are some especially emotional jewels on there. Some gems I really, like to see. And so every now and then it gets shown in my feed, and then I'll just go for it. Depends all on, have I seen it before, and do I have the time to do it actually. So going back to YouTube, long form content, and that was actually conflicting with using Instagram, because in the past I used Instagram to go live. That was before I used StreamYard. The downside, I love it when people join in. Let's be real. I love it when people join in. What I don't love is that people join in and start talking about something completely different. Throws me off track. And I'm like, how am I going to manage this? So yes, I like people in there. No, I don't like it when they start talking about other things. Then there, of course, is something called connection. And there was a lot of static every now and then on Instagram. So I was like, that's not going to work. By the way, in the beginning, I had the same static here on StreamYard too. And one of the things that they've changed is there is the option to record locally. I'm so happy with that one, because that's actually the backup for when there is static and the sound is really bad or echoing or stuttering or whatever it is. Then I'll just post the other version. Awesome. I love it. Totally happy with it. Best thing StreamYard ever did. Well, the shorts are actually quite good too. So I realized that people on Instagram are not really interested in long form content. Of course, I was aware of this because whenever I post, it's like, oh, it's not within a minute. Okay, then I need to go not to Reels, I need to go to post. Oh, it's over 15 minutes and it was 20. Oh, it just chops off at 15. Little clues, which give it away. But I was like, well, StreamYard gives me the option to record live. And whenever it's there, it's easy to save it. So that's the cool thing about Instagram. When you go live, you can save all your videos. I've tried going live on YouTube without StreamYard. I came across the vertical videos. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Did some experimenting with it. And then I realized I'm supposed to be able to download the whole stuff, but I can't. So I had to come up with something new. And that's what I mean with be ready for it. So today I was talking to someone and we were talking about various platforms. And one of the things that she said was it's important to keep things short on Instagram. Of course, that I know that to be true. And especially since I started posting quote cards on there, I noticed that more people were subscribing. So I instantly gained more followers, which told me a little bit something about, well, if they want to see quote cards, that's like 5 seconds, 10 seconds stops. Then no long videos. And also other people said, yeah, I saw you on StreamYard and I saw that there was a video out there, but yeah, it was a little bit long. So I'm sorry, I didn't watch the whole thing. So I realized that's not the thing that I need to do. But then came the shorts. Remember when I said, when I go on here on StreamYard, I can actually use the shorts, and I think on Zoom I can do so too. I'm not entirely sure where it is. And I also asked someone else, please put the timestamps on there, beginning and end, and tell me what you like about it. And that's what she's doing nowadays, and I'm so happy about that. So I'm posting more of those shorts. And well, for one, I have more content to post on Instagram, because instead of 1 hour of something, I can post tiny little clips like 1 minute. And well, I keep being surprised with the titles, that are all of a sudden in there. And I'm like, okay. And that's one of the things. I know I'm not good at titles. And Evan Carmichael has shown me what I can do, where I can go to in order to get good titles. But now the system comes up with good titles. Oh my God, that's so much easier. And there's a poll too. So I can basically ask people, what do you like about it? Do you even like it? And, and that's what I mean with be ready. Be ready for things coming your way. Be ready for all those new things that all of a sudden show up. I didn't know, but I have to say it's so exciting. It's like a thrill, with the new things that I'm like, okay, let's hit this button. Can something go wrong? Okay, no, well, apparently no. Then okay, let's see, what does it mean? The third thing on this whole thing is the be resilient part. And be resilient has to do with learning new things which are not easy. Well, if you've seen me more often, then you know that every now and then I talk about opt-in pages, landing pages on Kajabi. And it's not like I haven't done opt-in pages before, because I did. But those were the really easy ones. Literally a box which is posted on a page, a website page. Fill in your name, fill in your email address, and goodbye. And then when they would subscribe, then I would go to a different program, different app, and I would create this email series, and then those would be sent. Kajabi is a very interesting platform. It's a very, well, I want to say it's a very complete platform, but I keep adding things. So apparently complete is not even complete, because you can be more complete. And well, co-owner is Brené Burchard. So he talked about this a long time ago. I knew he was talking about this, and I've contemplated using Kajabi for a long time. I've seen a lot of people using Kajabi, and it does look smooth. What I didn't know was that Kajabi could also be very complicated. So last September, when I was in the US, in Austin, then I got to talk to some people, and that actually got me the boost to move on again with the whole Kajabi thing. So I did make opt-in pages, landing pages, but it never was quite the way that I wanted to. And today I was like, yeah, Brendan says OVO, opt-in value offer. Nowadays it's the adjusted version because we also talk about up sales and down sales. And I was like, opt-in, yes. Landing page, failure, those are the emails. And then offer, what is it you want to put on there for sale? And the whole system of Kajabi, it didn't really make sense to me because there are web pages everywhere. Then in the sales are the offers, and then in the marketing are the landing pages, and so on. And I was like, how? Until I realized OVO, and I was like, oh, yeah, of course. He already said it. He said it years ago. I just didn't see it anymore because there was so much going on in Kajabi. Now, recently I set up a whole thing and then I couldn't find it back anymore. That was a little bit disappointing. But the good news about it was that even though that didn't happen, I was like, but I've made various pages before, so I decided to do a duplicate. I now understand a little bit better what I need to duplicate and what I need to change, and I did it, and I was like, oh, and now all of a sudden I've got a practically fully functioning, well, the landing page itself is functioning. Then we need to make sure that the emails get out there. Well, you can skip that part sort of. So that's about the value. And then we go to the offer part. Well, the offer part, I finally got nailed. And actually, it's kind of cool because I do these challenges every last weekend of the month. And I record these challenges in Zoom. Well, no, actually here on StreamYard. And I store them and then I put them in Kajabi, as in I'm creating a course. And with all the new things that I've been doing lately, whether it's my group training every week on Tuesday, whether it's the going live here on Fridays, whether it's posting every now and then on LinkedIn, I create a bunch of stuff. And every Tuesday, well, almost every Tuesday during the group training, I also do meditations. I am now like, okay, let's take them out. And with all the captions out there, remember what I was talking about, it's all of a sudden so much easier to figure out, oh, this is here, this is there. So this is the part of the training that I want to keep. This is the part where I put people on the hot seat. So let's send it to them. Oh, this is the part which is meditation. Okay, let's take it out, put a little music underneath. So much that I can use, and I love to use the framework. So I actually haven't created such a framework for a while now, and today I was like, I'm going to get a framework out there again. So that's really good. And when talking about the whole opt-in landing page thing, I kept going back to it again and again and again and again. And that's when we get back to the middle part, the new skills. So I put the why on there. The why could also be on this side. The why has to do with, well, why do you want to do it? Why do you want to learn new skills? And so what's your motivation behind it? That usually works best when you want to start something new. So I put that in the middle because, well, the why, in my opinion, is something that, is so relevant that I was like, okay, let's put it there so people can actually see it. Why? Why do you want to create a new skill? Well, my coach, I signed up for this follow-up program of CHPC. So I'm a CHPC coach, a certified high performance coach. So I'm certified by Brendon Burchard, and I keep getting training like at least once a month. I think it's like a couple of times a month. And then there's some other training as well. And in addition, I have my own coach, and she is doing round 2. And that has to do with the cage life, the comfortable life, or the charged life. So does it feel like you're trapped and you cannot go anywhere? And do you really want to leave Is it about, life is good, why change things? Or is it about, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm learning all these other things? So my coach came up with homework, which of course was something that Brennan apparently came up with, and was like, okay, come up with 12 skills you want to learn. 12 new skills. Okay. Now she's actually asking me every week, what are you going to add? And that's quite a lot. And when I say one step at a time, start with 10 minutes, it's like I was saying, one step at a time. I'm still learning these things. So, what am I telling my brain when I stop doing this so I can do the other? And of course, it's not the goal that you stop doing things. The goal is that you add to things. And I was like, okay, yeah, the 10 minutes, 10 minutes, I can do 10 minutes. So, when it came to the book, remember, I said, okay, let's be realistic. I can do 10 minutes. That's what I can do. But when it comes to doing that one thing, that opt-in page, and in this case, talking about influence, was something I was like, I'm going to stick with this one. So normally, because I talk about a certain module within CHPC per month. So this month it's advanced psychology, and the good thing is that advanced psychology and influence are actually going side by side. Influence has everything to do with how we look at people, how we look at ourselves, what we do. So it's about the mind. It's about what do we teach the brain. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stick because I want to finish this one and I want to do it good. And with every time I sign in and I look at certain things, I'm like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. So the influence challenge was a 3-day challenge, which I did in last weekend, last month. And now I'm going to take it down, but people can still sign up. Go to the 7-day free trial. And there's all that other stuff that I put in there, remember, from the weekly group training and from the stuff that I actually posted on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of nice. It's, the work that I've been doing for over a year now is finally paying off. And it's so nice to actually see that content. So the being resilient part has to do with don't give up, go and continue on. And then when we talk about the new skills, I'm still learning to do that one thing. So let's be focused still on that one thing. Now, all combined, I cannot believe what I've started doing since especially December 1st. So I had been going live in 2023 for 8 months straight in a row, every week. And then I stopped because I went to Chicago. And, well, time zone was different. It just didn't work out. And then somewhere along the lines, I don't know if it was December or January or February, I started doing Friday Night Lives because I was posting on Instagram every day. And then I started adding the Monday first. At first was the Monday morning messages. Now it's the Monday motivational messages, which I also put out there on podcast. Podcast has changed since I started. Different platform, different rules, new shows. It's mind-blowing what's possible. It really is mind-blowing. But it all comes down to being resilient. And do we do it and do we keep doing it? And that's why I come back to the 10 minutes a day and one step at a time. So when I talked in the beginning about one of my clients who said, I want to be a coach, but I cannot be a coach because look at what you are doing. And I was like, well, look at what Brendon Burchard is doing. So he is my role model. And I said, but you didn't start walking overnight. You didn't start talking overnight. And that's what people need to remember. I said, well, it starts by creating content. And actually, I created a framework last Tuesday, which was related to if you can put some things out there on a web page or wherever you want to be, and it is about who you are and what changed things. And you can only use a limited amount of sentences. What would it be? So I came up with this because I was looking at one of those pages, yes, in Kajabi, yes. And that was the one thing that unfortunately I couldn't reach anymore, but I had copy and pasted the text, so that was good. So I looked at it, I looked at the example, it said, hi, I'm Taylor, and then a whole bunch of things. What she stood for, so basically her values, what had changed, so why is she the go-to person, and then something else, the call to action, go do this. So I was like, okay, I can do that too. So there I was sitting on the terrace. Well, actually, I was sitting inside, I think. It was raining last Tuesday. And it was very windy, so they had closed down all the terraces. And I started working, doing all these things. And then I had group training. So I copied and pasted the example text. And then I copied and pasted my own text. I started the live training and I said, I want you to look at what I just sent you. And then I started explaining how it was built up. So I had used some hashtags in there. One of the hashtags is authenticity. Another one is inclusion. And I was like, okay, so how do I describe myself? So at first I said, I've always been the odd one out. And then I was like, okay, but I've been talking about what do we tell the brain? So do we want to get a negative message out there or a positive message out there? So I changed that. And instead of using I'm the odd one out, I changed it to during most of my life, I didn't fit in. And I was like, oh, but that makes sense. So I continued talking about that, talked about the turnaround point, which had to do with a holiday job when I was 16 or 17 years old. Finally, people saw me and finally they took me serious, and that was a good thing. So that was the beginning of the end. No more quiet, withdrawn Lexi, but actually I started to talk. So that was good. And well, so there were more things in there. And I was like, okay, so I told them to go work on that part. And I was like, okay, let's go back to basics. What is that initial message that you want to get across? So when I heard like, I cannot be a coach, and when this framework was being used, then all of a sudden it was like, oh, but I actually can do this. Because you don't have to do all the stuff. You can, get a web page out there, depending on which system you want to use, with your message on there. And then, that's the start. And then on top of it, of course, you have to create content. Now, I do realize that a lot of people don't like to see their face on the screen. And one of the things people say to me is, oh my God, you're so comfortable with hearing your voice and seeing yourself on the screen. And I'll honestly say, when I was talking to my coach, I talked about it. I said, oh my God, I had such a bad hair day not long ago. It was awful. And I said, but here is the thing. I talk about authenticity. So of course, I can wear all this makeup and my hair has to be perfect, but what's authentic about that part? I want to show people that it's okay to be who you are. And just now on Instagram, I posted this picture, and I'm probably going to edit the text, so add a little more to it. And today I was told, you could so fit in with the bikers. You look like a biker. Well, I have to assume that's true. That's just like I could probably be a skater the way I dress. I figured that out when I was in a skate shop and I looked around last September, October, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I wear. That's what I wear. That's what I wear. So funny. And looking at it, I was like, I want to be real. So of course, since a while I'm using blue nail polish. Well, this one cracked again. Actually, today it was the first time in weeks. Good news is I'm going to have it fixed tomorrow. So I never was able to actually wear nail polish because in a day it would be gone. But now I found this amazing color, and yes, you can tell. Hopefully, blue hair. I love the blue color, and yes, that includes the nails. And I actually also have this blue lipstick I can put on. And one of my friends who was with me in Chicago, Chicky Joe, she said to me, when are you going to put on the blue lipstick? Well, I'm probably going to do that too, because I do think it's a nice part of the whole. Do I need it out there? No. Does it help me to be more authentic? Well, it might actually be, not because I'm wearing makeup, so make myself look better, but actually it points out something which has to do with the blue color. And I totally dig blue, in case you missed it. But the blue lipstick is also sort of like a signature when it comes to my end. It's just a lot of people are like, I don't know if I like it. And for me, it's a lot of work to put it on and also to take it off. So that's why I'm not doing it regularly, because I'm still learning to apply it, because I never used any, well, hardly any makeup during my life. So that's the whole thing. So I do everything when it comes to going to the beauty specialist. I take care of my skin and everything. I take care of my hair. Nowadays, I take care of my fingernails. I've been taking care of my feet. So my feet actually have nail polish on there all year round. So even in the winter. So yeah, I love my blues. And when it comes to who I am, I'm not the average person. I've never been the average person. And if I were to use the blue lipstick, it would just underline my message. So it would be okay. There's nothing wrong with putting it out there. So I wanted the people to get back to the core essence. Who are you? What's your message? Why would people be coached by you? If you're a writer, what's your core message? What do you want to get across? Why would people read books by you? They are happy with it, by the way, just like they are with the 10-minute framework. And that's why I was so surprised that after they seem to have adopted the 10-minute framework, all of a sudden that message was like, but I cannot become a coach ever because it's too much work. Well, we nailed that one. We're going to get back to the basics. Now, there's something when it comes to being resilient and be ready on here. So be ready is here. Today was one of those days that was a little bit hard for me to start. So on Friday, I go to the physical therapist. When I do, they realign the whole thing. So that basically takes up brain space. That sounds a little bit weird, but the brain has to process the things that have been done. So, new positions, everything. So that means sleep. Then I go see one of my clients. There's talking going on because I want to know what's going on. What do we need to change? What do we need to set up? What has happened? And we also have a good time. I mean, I like to combine the good living with the work. So we do. On top of that, I go back to my house, feed the cat, play drums, and of course, take a shower afterwards, go pay attention to the cat again, feed her again, and then I go here back to base. This is where I can do my recordings with a good Wi-Fi out there. Well, it used to be really bad, but nowadays it's actually kind of good, and it's way better than it's at the house. But needless to say that after everything I did, and I could already tell before I actually started playing drums, because I was getting a little dizzy. I was like, oh, I'm tired. I need to sleep. And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to get out there early and hopefully catch some of my European friends while I'm going live? Or am I going to do this at the usual time? Now, I did it a little bit later than my usual time because I had some trouble with starting back up again. So is it the best thing to do it at this time? I'm not entirely sure, because afterwards I'm going to be editing, downloading, all that stuff. That means that I'm going to be asleep like really early in the morning. And at some point, of course, the day starts and I'm going to do other stuff. Well, the good news, I already slept. So I don't need the full 8 hours again. And when I do, well, tomorrow is another day, so, or the day after. And actually, like last Thursday, and I do believe last Wednesday too, I already slept an immense, insane amount of hours. Comes with the territory, hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. So in case you're wondering, that has to do with two doctors figuring out, oh, there's something called hypermobility, and there's a specific gen related to it. And well, those were the doctors, Ehlers and Danlos. So I know that certain things are part of who I am. And that means that when I talk about be resilient, what's on here, that for me being resilient means something totally different for me compared to other people. But I also know it's about how much can I do. And one of the things which can happen every now and then is that I'm so immensely tired by the time I have to go to the physical therapist that I'm like sort of shaking. It's like my heart is pounding throughout my entire body. And I know that if I were to get up at that moment, then I just, smash everything around. And even when I don't have that feeling, I still smash everything around. And, just recently I dropped one of those tumblers without a lid. That was no good. So when I talk about one thing at a time, when I talk about start with 10 minutes, it's also because I know that not everyone can do everything straight away. So it's not just about you didn't learn to walk overnight and you didn't learn to talk overnight. And yes, for some toddlers out there, it might seem that they do, because the moment that they start talking full sentences. But of course, it didn't happen overnight. They started building all those skills, and then when they start talking, they say just about anything in the right order. It's kind of funny when you see it. But this part of being resilient and taking care of yourself and figuring out how much can I do. Remember that first client I was talking about? Well, she cannot do it all during the day. She has a limited amount of energy. Good. So do I. That's why when it comes to coaching certain people, I am the person to go to. Because when we talk about inclusion, when we talk about seeing things a little bit differently, understanding things a little bit differently, approaching things a little bit differently, well, here I am We talk about neurodivergent. There we go. So being the one who didn't fit in, yes, here I am. I know what it's like. I know what it meant at school. And that wasn't the biggest problem, even though in retrospect, I didn't learn some skills until later at high school in the final years. But when it comes to work, oh my God, yeah, I've I've seen a number of things. I'm going to say the word endured, even though I don't like it because it sounds very negative. But yes, I had my experiences, and not all of them were good. But the good thing about them is that I can now use them for others and to help them out. So that's what I like about it. And yes, the things that I could do in the past, I cannot do anymore. I have become older. I got my injuries that I didn't have before. And that's okay. I can still do my work. I still can get my message across. I still want to create this ripple effect. And I have heard by now that for some people, I'm their role model. So, mission succeeded. Not the way I wanted to, but the first part of the mission has succeeded. There are people who have changed. You no longer are on the verge of, I want to opt out, but they are like, okay, I think I can do this. I think I can embrace life again and figure out how to go live life because I'm finally heard, seen, and understood. And I understand that it's okay to actually speak up. Well, that's my message. I want to teach people to speak up, speak out, and share their story. So when people are finally being recognized with whatever it is that's going on, and people are no longer brushing them off, must be you. But there's like, oh yeah, we didn't know. And there's a fresh start. There's something encouraging in that. So there's no fun in finding out that something is not going the way you want it to be. I'm one of those people, who knows? But the good thing is that once you do, you can say, okay, this is what I have to deal with. So how do I move on? How do I move forward from that? And well, apparently I'm the one you people go to when they don't see any perspective anymore. And basically, it always comes down to people don't understand them because their way of communicating is a little bit differently. So it could be that they take things literally. You don't ask, I don't share, I don't tell. It could also be like, I cannot handle when you come to me unexpectedly. So please, I need structure. I need to know ahead of time what I can expect. And it can also be that people are like, oh my God, am I supposed to say something to you? Because you come across like really, well, that's when I support them too. Because I know what it's like. And when you have someone with you, especially when you're sitting across multiple people yourself, then it's nice because those people can help you out. And that's my purpose in life. So when we talk about the new skills, why am I learning the new skills? Well, I'm learning the new skills because I don't just want to be the coach. I want to be the coach who knows all about mindsets. I know a thing or two about mindsets. I know also about the hypnotherapy. I've studied things, I've listened to things, but I want to continue on. So when I talk about having a role model, and I've talked about that plenty of times, so when I talk about influence, and that's also part of the influence challenge, I talk about who is your role model and what do you want to pick up from that role model. And then we go back to your one step at a time, please, 10 minutes a day. If you want to do a little bit longer, that's okay, but don't start to try and do everything your role model does. We also talk about who are you influencing as a person. So who do you show that what you can do actually works, or who do you show that what you do actually doesn't work? Could be two. And more importantly, what do you teach yourself? Because you're also your own role model. And then when it comes to the brain knows when you don't do things. And remember when I said I had some trouble starting back up today and going live? That's the one thing that pulled me through it. It was like, yeah, I'm going live. Unfortunately, some of the people I would like to be there with me can't make it, partially due to the time, partially due to other circumstances. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go live. And then for a moment, I was a little bit startled when I saw that LinkedIn was on there. And I was like, well, you know what? It actually makes sense. I need to go on LinkedIn anyway. So this is actually kind of cool. So I'm going to check if it's actually there, if it's actually recorded. So, and as for having to drop another platform, in this case Instagram, that's actually kind of cool because I didn't post it anymore anyway, because it's, so when you watch it live, it's there, people can actually see it, but then afterwards it goes into the archive. I can download that, but if I want to post it, I really have to post it on there. And well, people don't watch long things on Instagram. They basically scroll, So, oh, it all seemed to make sense. And I was like, okay, so I need to do this because otherwise I tell my brain I'm not trustworthy. Well, been there, done that. Remember 2023, I did it for straight for 8 months in a row, every week. And then I quit. I just basically quit and I didn't get up until a couple of months ago. And I was like, that's not going to happen again. So here I am. And I know by now I can do it. I can easily talk for about an hour. The easiest thing, of course, is when I come prepared. So that's why I made this framework. I was like, well, people probably don't expect me to be spot on. And that's the advantage when you don't announce it ahead of time. So people could know that I go live around this time every week. But then again, I also try to go live a little bit earlier at the request of some of the people from Europe. So it depends on whether I can do it or not. And like I said, Friday is a busy day. And I had the choice to go live early and be tired and then running the risk of not knowing what to say, or I'm going to sleep first. Then, of course, I have to get myself back into shape again. But the good thing is I made a framework and, I'm awake enough to share my story. Anyway, if you are one of those persons who want to learn new skills and you don't know how to do it, then go check out that influence challenge. So you can go there to ladylexi.com/influence challenge. And on every Tuesday, I work with people and we work on that one thing that they want to get out there. Also, when posting on Instagram, there are little messages on there. Leave comments. When you leave a comment, I can read it and then I can record a little something for you. And when it's a little bit longer, it will be on YouTube. Then I'll post a little something on Instagram and I'll refer to YouTube. I'll make sure that in stories, the link is there and you can click on it. And I also learned another neat trick. What you can do is you can actually take a screenshot, you go to your pictures, and then you can click the link. That's because Instagram doesn't work with links. But I can get into stuff, but then of course you have to share with me what it is that you want out there. So let me know what it is you're working on, what's not working for you, what you would like to have explained a little bit more, so I can talk about these things and I can help you get moving again, because that's the whole goal. Well, for now, don't forget, leave a comment, tell me what you like about this part, and I'll see you again next week.